Alright mate, how you doing? Welcome back to another episode of IMO. In this video we're talking about the West Ham manager situation. Pellegrini has been sacked, David Moyes has come in. Back in. A manager that was got rid of by the West Ham board less than 2 years ago for being deemed not the person to take us forward has been brought back. What does this all mean for the rest of West Ham's season and on from there? We're going to talk about all that and more in today's video. Okay, so first things first, hope you had a great Christmas and New Year's and are ready to take on 2020. I certainly am. There's going to be some changes on the channel over the next few weeks and months. You might have noticed my #United mascot's not in the background anymore. That's because I've slowly started to move things over to a new office at the #HQ. One of the reasons for that is I'm going to be streaming a lot more. I've already started, in fact, on twitch.tv/SpenFC moving forward. FIFA stuff, Football Manager stuff. You might even see that bad boy get involved, so stay tuned for that. So there will be a bit of a change of scenery coming soon. In the meantime, though, if you want to go and follow me on Twitch to make sure you're always aware when I go live for future broadcasts, I much appreciate it. There's a link in the description. Okay, David Moyes is back at West Ham. There's so many things to talk about with this. We have actually played a game since he came in. We played Bournemouth, of course, and we won 4-0. That was huge. And ideally, I'd have made this video before we played Bournemouth to give it a complete, unaffected opinion on the situation. However, you know what it's like. It's Christmas, it's New Year's, there's lots going on. I made it as soon as possible. But I'm also, as much as I'm happy about the Bournemouth game, I don't want to get too distracted by it because I've been a West Ham fan long enough to know one game doesn't mean too much. We've got to look at what's going to happen over the season. There's lots of different factors to consider. So I will still give you the same opinion I was going to give you before that game, to be honest. But before we get on to Moyes, we've got to talk about the last era that's ended, the Pellegrini era. Why did West Ham sack him? Was it the right decision? For me, it was the right decision. I felt after the Leicester game, what was happening before we played Leicester and lost to Leicester on Boxing Day, we were having a good game, a bad game. Good game, bad game. We beat Chelsea, which I think saved Pellegrini's job about a month ago. But then we'd lose another one. Then we'd beat someone else. And it was like Pellegrini kept saving his job every game because a win in every other game for West Ham isn't bad. But going into Leicester, off the back of defeats to Arsenal and Crystal Palace, which really hurt. Twice this season they've beaten us. And in both games we were actually beating them. It's pretty annoying. I'm sick of the sight of Jordan Ayew. Anyway, coming into the Leicester game, Pellegrini needed to win it. Leicester weren't even playing their first team. They had mostly subs playing, to be honest. No Jamie Vardy, loads of players missing. They still beat us and they missed a penalty. So it's the right decision. Whether he lost the dressing room or just couldn't handle the rigours of the Premier League, after he left to Man City, he went to China. Is he the same manager? Did he have the tools to work with at West Ham? Pellegrini's a hard man to not like. He's a very likeable person and I wish him well going forward. But he'd taken us to a point where we were looking like we could get relegated and we just can't afford to get relegated. I mean, no one wants to get relegated, the amount of money you lose as a club. But West Ham particularly, with this new stadium, it's not even that new anymore. We've been there a while. It's our 4th season there now. But it would be a bit of a joke to be playing in that stadium in the Championship. We're supposed to be going on the up since moving here. And let's face it, since that really good season where we finished 7th in our last season at the Boleyn Ground, we haven't improved. We've got worse. Now, normally, when teams move stadium, you expect a little bit of a decline because of the amount of money it costs. It happened to Arsenal, certainly, when they moved to the Emirates. They put so much money over a long period of time in building that stadium that it had to affect their transfer policy, and you did see a bit of a downward slump. It could happen to Spurs now, in the sense that they've just spent loads of money on their stadium, and Daniel Levy has always been fairly conservative when it comes to spending money as a chairman, but now he might be even forced to be more so, despite the fact that I'm sure Mourinho would love to have some money to spend. But that is quite simply not the case at West Ham. We didn't build the stadium. We didn't even have to buy it. We paid $2 million a year. It's literally like buying a youth player every single year. It didn't affect us in any way financially. It shouldn't have anyway. But we haven't improved. And the reason they brought in Pellegrini in the first place to replace Moyes after he kept us up by coming in around this time a few seasons ago to replace Slaven Bilic was ambition from the West Ham board to play a better kind of football, to reconnect with the West Ham way, whatever that means, and to push on as a club in footballing sense. And you can't fault the ambition, but then did they back him up financially? Did he get to bring the players in he needed to? Ultimately, I think Pellegrini's tenure was really affected by the injury to Lucas Fabianski, our best player, in my opinion, in terms of consistency, our most important player. And whilst it's often unfair to managers when it's out of their hands if they get a really good player injured, and we did massively struggle without Fabianski, by the way, what was the problem was that he didn't have a good number 2. David Martin in the end did okay, and he came in as a number 3, but it was Roberto who played in some significant games for us and single-handedly cost us them, and he has to take blame for that. That's on Pellegrini, because he brought him in as a number 2, and he's not good enough. And it is always hard to get backup goalkeepers, because no one wants to be a backup. If you're a different position, there's a number of positions you can play. You could be a right back that can also play left back or centre back, or a centre mid that can play with any combination of other centre mids. But if you're a keeper, there's only room for one of you. We lost Adrian, We couldn't hold on to him. We couldn't renew his contract because he didn't want to be a number 2. He obviously went and became a second choice keeper again at Liverpool, but it's a much better club and he's had a lot of game time this year. But Roberto is quite simply not good enough. He cost us a lot of points and maybe cost Pellegrini his job, to be honest. If we'd picked up a few more points earlier in the season, just after Fabianski got injured, he could still be here. And because before Fabianski got injured, we had one of the best defensive records in the league. I think it was us. We had the joint most clean sheets with Crystal Palace when we played Crystal Palace the first time. And since then, Crystal Palace have done really well. We've just gone like that. So do I support the decision to get rid of Pellegrini? Yes. Now, there's a big decision to come in after that, wasn't there? Who do we get in? There was a number of names being thrown about. There was Eddie Howe from Bournemouth, who are also struggling. Rafa Benitez, another manager who's gone out to China, but is still shown more recently that he can do it, and I think he would do a job for us in the Prem. I've even heard rumours that we might be lining up Gareth Southgate for after Euro 2020 when his England contract is finished. Either way, they went with David Moyes. Now, what does this mean and why did they do it? First of all, it's an acknowledgement that we are very much in a relegation battle, which we knew already, but the board now know it too. We brought in David Moyes before, he did a job, he kept us up, and he was only given a contract to the end of the season, and West Ham decided not to renew it, to go with Pellegrini. In that situation, you can kind of understand why. If you haven't given a manager more of a contract past a certain point, you're not sacking him, so to speak. It's your decision what you do. And we don't know what David Moyes wanted to do. I think he did want to stay at that point, but ultimately, they decided they had a better option in Pellegrini. We did okay last year. I'd say it was kind of par, like minimum acceptable product is what we were last year. Would Moyes have done any worse in charge? I'm not sure he would. I think he'd have done the same. We might have played a different kind of football, sure. But if that means the kind of football we just played against Bournemouth yesterday, we beat them 4-0, I'll take that. Anyway, I felt a bit sorry for Moyes when we let him go, even though, I didn't know for sure if it was the right decision for West Ham to keep him there. I'm not saying I would have kept him. I'm just saying as a person, I can understand why he'd be annoyed. Fast forward a year and a half. When we came looking for him this time, he's protected himself in negotiating an 18-month contract. So even if we do get rid of him at the end of the season again, he'll get a payoff, which he didn't get last time. And he's earned that. The question is, will we be in the Premier League at the end of this season? Will he do the same thing again and keep us up? My opinion is he probably will. I wouldn't want to bet on it. I certainly wouldn't want to curse it. But I think he will keep us up. Our squad's good enough to stay up, although we've had good squads go down before. My prediction is that West Ham will be okay. We're not going to finish anywhere near as high as we probably should finish with the squad we've got. But I can see us finishing somewhere around the 15th, 14th mark. I would take 17th right now, to be quite honest with you. If Moyes does keep us up, he should stay in the job for me. And let's not get ideas bigger than our station, eyes bigger than our stomach. You've got to be careful what you wish for, particularly in West Ham's situation. And Premier League safety is a minimum, mid-table security is what we should be looking at and aiming for a while, I think, until we have a good, stable few years. One thing I think is really important we need to do now as West Ham fans, and the West Ham board need to do this as well, and just everyone at the club, needs to lose this fascination with the West Ham way. Okay, it's this thing that's been said, and Big Sam brought it up when he was manager here, and he said, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Because there was a time when West Ham were good. It was a long, long time ago. It was a long time before I was born, right? We're talking about the legends of Bobby Moore, of Martin Peters, who sadly passed away just a few weeks ago. One of the famous ex-West Ham players, also ex-England players. He played and scored in the World Cup final. There was only 2 scorers for England in the 1966 World Cup final. Jeff Hurst was one of them, ex-West Ham as well. He scored a hat-trick, and Martin Peters got the other one. So it's just Jeff Hurst left of the famous West Ham alumni from that team. And, we won the World Cup and all that. Very proud of that, and I'm not taking away from it, but it's a long time ago, guys. It's over 50 years now. To me, if you were to ask me what the West Ham way means as a 31-year-old fan, it's like being a yo-yo club, to be honest. It's going up and going down. That's what I think of when I think of West Ham. So we've got to look to change that. What we shouldn't be doing is going, you need to get us back to the West Ham way. It's irrelevant now. It doesn't matter. Of course, as spectators and fans, we want to see good football. But we've got to be realistic. We're aiming to be consistently in the top 20 clubs in the country. That's a big achievement on its own. People that have this tunnel vision and only look at the Premier League and they'll take the mick out of teams that get relegated from the Prem or finish low in the Prem like they're rubbish. They're in such a high percentage of English football teams. So many people support teams that may never get to the Prem. If we can just establish ourselves, and I'm talking like for a good decade plus, and stay in the Prem and maybe not be in so many relegation battles, that would be progress. Now, of course, I'm an ambitious guy, and I'd love to see West Ham regularly playing in Europe and to kick on and try and break into that top 6, which is sort of the ambition that our board want us to believe West Ham are doing. But let's be realistic. Are we actually showing that ambition? Are we spending that money? We're not spending the money. And have we made good enough signings? No, we haven't. I'm looking at a Leicester right now. I'm looking at a Leicester. Tell me the difference between Leicester and West Ham. I'm not talking about points on the table and the football they're playing, because that's obvious what the difference is right now. As a club, what's the difference? Are they bigger than us in terms of fan base? No. Have they got a better stadium than us? No. What is the difference between Leicester and West Ham? Why are they doing what they're doing? Why have they won a Premier League just a few years ago? Why are they now looking like they could potentially get top 4 with a squad that no one would have predicted it? Why are they consecutively doing good business? Because they're doing all this without spending loads of money. They're bringing good players in. They got to the Champions League quarter-final the year after they won the Premier League without Kante. Like, this is a club that has been on the up consecutively, consistently. And that comes from the top. This is my point. Now, this isn't me trying to throw the West Ham board under the bus and say they're bad. I'm saying you don't get a team show really good things on the pitch and improve over a period of time if they haven't got a good board, a good chairman, a good owner. That's the one thing that is non-negotiable. You can get away with it even if your manager's not on point. I mean, Ranieri, what a year he had at Leicester, but if you look at his last decade, as a manager, he's not been that good. It comes from the top. Now, the Leicester chairman has changed dramatically fairly recently, of course, because the man who was in charge when they won the league and that so many of the players and fans loved, sadly passed away in that tragic helicopter accident. But his son has taken over, clearly has a similar kind of intent and ambition for the club. And you can tell, not just the fans, but the players love him and want to play for him. There's not many teams I can think of with that sort of connection to the owner, you know. It's got to be one of the best in the country. And that's what I think we need to get at West Ham. It's what the fans need. Because you can always sense at West Ham, we're only a few bad results away from, one, a relegation battle, but two, some sort of riot or revolution or, you know, protest outside the ground about the board and about the owners and about whatever. How do we get over that? It needs to come from the top. The guys in charge, Gold, Sullivan, they've got to really show that they want to be at West Ham for a long time and make better decisions, arguably. Now, I don't necessarily mean in their managerial appointments, but I mean in showing us what they're trying to achieve at West Ham and backing it up with transfers, with the right appointments, with the right recruitment. But ultimately, this video is about David Moyes, and I expect him to make us a lot harder to beat. He's clearly got some sort of connection with the players. A lot of them are there from when he was there before. And if the Bournemouth game is anything to go by, it looks like the players want to play for Moyes. You know, not only have they shown an improvement and scored goals, but the pressing game they were playing, the energy, the ground they were covering was more than anything I'd seen from West Ham this season. He's managed to get a goal out of Felipe Anderson, his first of the season, so he's firing again. We didn't even have Antonio available, who when he plays looks to be one of our best players going forward. Sebastian Haller back in the goals as well. So lots of positives from that Bournemouth match. I don't know if happy is the word to use about Moyes coming in, because the situation's not great. I'd rather us not needed a new manager, and I was happy when Pellegrini came in. I was excited for it. But given the situation, there's not many managers I would have rather had come in. I mean, realistically, that is. Because, you know, the ambitious part of me wanted us to go for people like Allegri and Pochettino. It's never going to happen. And imagine if we did get someone like that. That would be a statement from the board to say, look, we are here to compete. But ultimately, they've got a manager who they're confident is going to keep us up. And that's what we have to look to achieve. It's all about realistic targets. Because so many clubs aim too high and it ends up having the reverse effect, and too much money is spent. They get themselves in difficulties. They end up struggling big time. We don't want to be like that. So to sum up, I think it was the right decision to get rid of Pellegrini. I mean, look how good Watford are doing since they got rid of their manager for the second time this season. Pearson's come in, turned them into a different side. One thing that is hurting West Ham right now is the fact that all the other relegation candidates are also picking up points. So it's going to be a fascinating relegation race this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see someone go down on 40 points. Which is usually the number you need to be safe. I just really hope it's not West Ham. I think Moyes will do it. Will he be in charge next season? Like I say, if he keeps us up, he should get a season. Just to give him a chance and see what he can do for a full season. Seems fair. If we go down, I mean, I don't even want to think about that. If we were to go down, there's a whole different video to be made and figure out what the future West Ham means then. Because it wouldn't be the first time this board had taken us down, so they know that. But what do you guys think? West Ham fans, non-West Ham fans? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think of Moyes? He was made a little bit of a joke after his time at Manchester United, but let's face it, he's a solid Premier League manager. He's managed Everton for a long time in this league. I don't think he was doing any worse than what Solskjaer's doing at Man United either. And he did okay for us. So I'm behind Moyes. I've got no issue with him. But I do reserve the right to change that opinion in a few months if we continue to struggle in the league. We need some big points in big games coming up over the next few months, or else we could get ourselves in a very difficult relegation battle. Drop a like on this video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. Don't forget to check out my twitch.tv/SpenFC channel. Follow if you want to know when I go live in the future. Lots of live streams coming up, playing FIFA Weekend League on the weekends, Football Manager in the week, amongst other things as well. So I look forward to seeing you there soon. I used to stream a lot back in the day. Now I moved to this house. I had a 3-year break because basically the internet here is nowhere near good enough. And I just had other things that I had to do. But now I'm back on the streaming game and I'm very much looking forward to sharing some moments live with you guys. I'll see you on another video soon. Until next time, see you when you're older. Don't go changing.